Howdy folks, Cody here with IronVerse Comics doing another IronVerse Comics Quickie. This time on Gemini Jump. Yeah. As we always start these off, a little context. I love me some indie, and this might be my most nitpicky Quickie ever. The team behind this set a great example for crowdfunding creators to follow, having the book ready to go during the campaign and shipped within weeks of finishing the campaign. I can't understate how rare and amazing that feat is. I also respect and have known the folks involved for quite a bit of time. But, as is tradition, in this series, the work stands alone. So what is Gemini Jump? It's a black and white, light-hearted adventure starring two young ladies with the ability to jump to various, I'll call them dimensions, and a desire to help those in need within them. Issue number 1 follows them helping out an alien race at the verge of extinction from many things, but primarily thirst, no pun intended. I'm not going to spoil the plot any further, as its pacing and execution is where this book really hits home. Excellent pacing. It never bogs itself down with unnecessary information, something I need to work on in my own work, and the art flows smoothly. In short, this, for an extended comic, it does so much right in the storytelling department. So why did I say this is my most nitpicky review yet? Well, you see these. We're going to talk about that. This book has a few places where I caught oversights. And we're going to hit all of the ones I caught. These are tiny things. Things I know from my own work. They manifest usually from looking over your work too many times before press, and your brain fills in things that aren't actually there, or goes ahead and accepts something that maybe you could have done better. Now, I'm only hitting these things as I'd hope if I had an editor, they'd hit. Now, I do have an editor, but not... I mean, we've gone through, in my own work, you know, we usually have, I have an editor look over the script, and then when we finish the art and such, I rewrite to the art, and then I have same editor look through that, see if it works. I don't know, you know, a lot of people get intimidated, right, talking to a creator, so it's very hard to get that harsh feedback on little things. Then we end up with, 9 to 10 beta readers before we finish the digital and send it out, right? And even through all of that, on our first 2 issues, we had typos go through on the typos on the first page, just go through all of that process. It happens. 100%. So this is just something, again, that I would hope someone would look at my own work at these small levels and be like, yeah, here's some small things you might have missed, brother. And so that's why I'm here. Now I'm hoping that, I trust, honestly, that this team won't take it as anything but me just doing some nitpicky editor stuff. You never know, though. So let's talk about these things. So I'm going to try not to show too much of the book, just the things. So here's the first thing, and it's a good chunk in. And again, small things, right? Very rarely took me out of the actual process there, the actual pacing and storytelling. So there's an and on this page. So let's see where that was. Oh, see, this is a nitpicky thing, right? This is how I would have done it. Maybe that's not how he heard the character say it, right? Maybe she didn't want to use that and. But it's right here. The final thing on this list for pacing-wise, and you yelling at me. Nitpicky. That one's probably the most nitpicky that I actually am going to do in this whole thing. Because that's just a word choice, right? That's a grammatical choice, and some characters do not speak in proper grammar. Trust me, that's a huge part of Jack. So that's me. It helps it sound better in my head when I'm reading it if there was an and not just a comma. Big fucking deal. All right, next. And please appreciate this very classic pulpy art. Fucking love it. So this is another nitpicky. So right here. And he will track you to the ends of the earth and beyond. So, and beyond, absolutely. Ends of the earth, this character, I don't even know if he'd know about what an earth is, right? So I would have used the word world instead. Again, most nitpicky review ever. So there's a lot of little things like that where I was like, ends of the world and beyond makes more sense to me because they're in a different dimension. I don't believe they're on an alternate Earth. As far as I can tell, that's not what's happening here. If they are, and I'm totally wrong. Totally, again, these are small nitpicks, but I would totally have used world and beyond instead of Earth and beyond. Again, super nitpicky. Let's do the next one. This is, I think, the only art critique I have this whole issue right here, and it's that. It works, right? Her ankle could be laying that way, but I don't know. This doesn't feel right. I noticed it pretty quick, and if there was a way to have the foot out, I would have maybe got it or had her twisted a little bit more towards the reader, right? So it felt a bit more natural how this foot lays, but again, most nitpicky review ever. It's these little things, and that's it, right? That's all I could do to this book. petty. I'm being petty this book, but we're going to the petty because I want those chinks in the armor ironed out in Indy because they aren't quite getting ironed out in most places. All right, there's a they in this that's missing, huh? Let me see. Right here. So, they were wizards with water, so much so that they compressed the entire contents. That's easy when you're doing the lettering. I mean, if I remember right, this is all one person, right? So if you're doing your lettering, at least on the making the comic end, as far as I'm aware. Now, let me check. Let me make sure. Yeah. It's co-created. But chaka, right? So it's really easy to fill in that kind of stuff in your own head when you're doing all the work. Like I letter the stuff to black and white art to feel out the pacing and everything myself. I'm a terrible letterer. But that's one of the easiest, I'm going to call it a mistake, one of the easiest stumbles that can happen is something like that, right? Just missing a letter. And he might have read this thing 50, 60 times, and his brain's just like, there's a Y there. I know there's a Y there. And yet there's no Y there, right? Little things that I hope this series makes people more aware of that can happen. So, I don't want anybody to overlabor their love, right? Their creation. But this is the job of an editor. Like, straight up. So I hope it's helpful. So there's that. Now let's go to the next one. So this is panel 1 and panel 2. This is the only set of flow errors, right? I don't even have a way to correct it in my head, right? So I started here as a reader would and read that way, and that is, as far as I can tell, not how this lettering, this bubble setup is difficult to tell how to read. Now it's not. So I think it could be read, okay, think Betty, think, myth, David and Goliath. What about something from history? If these two dots were over here, then I know that you read it this way and then jump over here. There's a continuation, right? But then I look at it again, and it could maybe start here. What about David and Goliath? Myth. Okay, think something from history. Kind of works both ways. You get the information in the panel both ways, but the fact that I had to stop and think about where it flows, that right there is trouble. Again, if these two dots were over here, I'd know it goes this way. At least I'd hope. Otherwise, somebody would. Yeah, I don't think anybody, even if it had those two, would jump straight from this to this. That I don't think that's a concern.
So that's what I would have done if it's supposed to be read that way, which I think it is. Because I don't think it's read this way, but it's tough, right? I'm a manga reader too, so I'm kind of used to reading right to left if I have to, and I don't think that was the goal here. So I'm thinking it is this and then that. So I would have put 2 dots over here to just guide the reader just a little bit more towards that word balloon, right? And then this had a similar problem. Though this one's a little bit cleaner. This one's a bit easier. Troy, Achilles, you can, and then we go over here, and then that's how they figure out how to defeat the giant robot villain. Very cool pulpy design on that thing, by the way, too. If we pass by it, I'll show you this really cool spread of him tearing a roof off. But it's hard. This was a hard panel to letter, right? It's thin, and I think that would have fixed that small bit, but could be wrong, right? I don't know. Just a thought is the best way I could put it. All right, I think we're on to the last bit in this big comic. Again, so these are small, nitpicky, and a very large comic. Third panel, there's a awkward sentence. So let's see what this means. Oh, yep. Okay, it's here. It may be, and don't quote me on this, have something to do. It may have something to do. It has something to do. This. It may be, and don't quote me on this. Take out have would be another way to do it. It may be, and don't quote me on this, something to do with it being in shock. It may be, don't quote me on this, but it may have something to do with it being in shock. It could just be how these characters speak. Again, I lament trying to comment on grammatical choices or errors because it could go either way in a lot of cases. This one just felt really awkward to me. And I think that's it. Those are all my nitpicks. So, 1, 2, 3, 6. 6 nitpicks. No. Love how pulpy that is. That's freaking cool. I wanted to show you, so I'm going to show you that one page I was talking about, just because it's cool. So give me a second to find it. I like that walking page too, but I specifically want this one, because I love it. I think it's super pulpy. Rawr, tearing the roof off a building and then goes to snatch them. I think that's a great sequence. And again, this comic's pacing is excellent. It never bogs down. It keeps flowing and rolling and rolling and rolling. So, those were the nitpicks. Not too bad, but they were nitpicks, right? I can't understate how easy it is for those things to happen and how little it actually affected my enjoyment of this title. Like not at all. In fact, I had fun finding them. It gave me something to talk about during this review. So, to end this, their execution on the campaign end, the fun story and art, well, it all has me. This series got me. And I'll definitely be snagging number 2. And I highly recommend finding number 1 yourself and jumping in. This time the pun was intended. Thank you folks so much for joining me. And I'll catch you next time. Take care.